Pointlessness and boy Perfume. If you had a father who didn't show any emotion for 3 or 4 months and then you stumbled upon him weeping as though someone had shot Bambi right in front of his eyes, what would you do? Right, you would sneak away and never let anyone know you'd seen anything. And that's what I did. I crept back into the basement like a highly skilled sneak thief and then proceeded to listen to most calming music I know, the Beatles. Somewhere between Revolution and Hey Jude, I fell asleep. When I awoke in a small puddle of my own drool on the ratty playroom carpet, my earphone seemingly welded to my head by the force of gravity, I looked at the Zydian symbol clock my parents once got me for my birthday. It was 11:45 p.m. I felt pretty sure of two things. Nobody had noticed that I was hidden away in the dark basement like a leper, and everyone would be asleep when I went upstairs this time for a change. I was doubly right. In the kitchen, I couldn't help but notice my dad's mysterious pile of distressing papers just sitting on the table in plain view. To see or not to see, that was the question. Well, for about a tenth of a second anyway, then I dove into those papers like Sherlock Holmes on a cappuccino binge. What I was looking at, what I had turned my strong, silent dad into a weepy mass of pudding, was a stack of bills, medical bills, Jeffrey's bills. Top sheet written in my dad's handwriting was a total tally of unpaid amount to date of $27,000. The total expenses so far were unbelievable, definitely in the six-figure range, if not for the fact my parents had both had good health insurance, which I knew was by overhearing some discussion about this stuff. We would already have blown the whole cost of college education in these 3 months, and I knew Jeffrey was going to need at least 3 years of treatment. As it was, I figured I'd be attending University of Would You Like Some Fries with that? There was no way either of us would have any kind of college fund in the future in the end of this. Then I had even more depressing thought. Jeffrey might not be around long enough to go to college. Okay, so we were losing money hand over fist. My dad was crumbling like a day-old scone, and my brother might die. Really, what could I do about this? At any moment, the only answer I could come up with was nothing. I went upstairs to get ready for bed and a new obsessive slogan run through my mind. It worked out like this. Okay, I'll brush my teeth now, but Jeffrey might die. So what's the point? Time to wash my face. But mom's not working. Dad makes maybe $40,000 a year after taxes, and there's $27,000 in unpaid bills downstairs. We're going to be homeless any minute, so what's the point? I should floss now, too, but I didn't even brush, so what's the point? So I went to bed with a grimy face with yuck-encrusted teeth, and that was just the start of my depressing what's the point period. The next day, I came back from a week of absence to a barrage of, oh my God, what's wrong with Jeffrey? Is your mom okay? How's your dad taking it? What were you sick? Oh, I can imagine that didn't snap me out of my funk too well. Renee talked with me through all through homeroom, which should have made me ecstatic, but I just kept thinking, soon I'll be leaving school to go live under an overpass, so what's the point of liking Renee liking me now? Also, somewhere in the back of my mind, I was realizing that she hadn't suddenly discovered that I was an actual human being type person because of any new attributes I had developed. She was just temporarily fascinated by me as a tragic figure. I still could help going gaga. I still couldn't help going gaga over how beautiful she was, but I was almost mad at her because she wasn't noticing me for the right reasons. Annette was truly concerned about me, though. In Miss Palmer's class, she offered to come over after school a few days a week that week to help me catch up on my classwork in every subject we had together. That was pretty comforting because I didn't want to fail all my finals after the massive makeup effort I had done before my flu episode. And Annette had always got A's in everything. There was one problem. My math period was Annette's piano period, so who would bail me out in math? I attempted to say, I'm going to fail the hardest subject anyhow, so what's the point? I didn't, though. I was determined to pull all my grades through this so I wouldn't add my parents' worries. In math class, I went to the teacher and told him I would need help if he wanted the week, if I wanted to learn the week of new material I'd missed. I was torn between hoping he'd offer to meet me during our opportunity period or teach me stuff himself, and being afraid that spending that much time one-on-one with a math teacher would crack me completely and turn me into a deranged lunatic. Oh well, I figured, at least I'll be the life of the underbridge party crowd then. The teacher did not offer to catch me up, though. Instead, he asked for a volunteer who was willing to tutor me at home. He got one, Renee Albert. Holy cow, Renee Albert was coming to my house. Renee Albert was coming to my house. Even I couldn't think, what's the point of Renee Albert coming to my house? With a straight face, I just said, wow, thanks, Renee. While every other guy in the class looked at me like I was a bigot target painted on my forehead. It was one of my drum lesson days, my teacher with Mr. Watras, and I walked in. He handed me a crumpled tissue, pointed to the garbage can, and told me to show off my newfound hoop skills. I got it in, swish, sat down at a drum set. It was a great feeling to be playing the drums after more than a week away from them. And Mr. Watras must have understood, because he just sat back and watched me burning around the kit at full speed for a couple of minutes. When I stopped, he surprised me by talking about my academic situation, which we never discussed again after the ugly meeting I had with my teachers. So, I hear you made up all your work. Yeah. Do you have a plan for making up the work you missed last week and studying for finals? Yes, Annette is going to tutor me in everything except math, and this other girl is helping me out with the math. Great. Listen, Stephen, I'm really glad you got back on track with this school stuff. We absolutely depend on you in All City. And I'm thrilled that we can keep you on the ensemble. Me too. But part of me was thinking, what's the point of practicing this stupid concert when my brother might not live to see it? The week went by like that, with me going to school, my mom and Jeffrey coming and going between home and Philly, my dad staring off into space even more than he had for months. I kept having those what's the point moments, but plugged away at life consistently anyway. And Annette came by 3 times to help me study. You know what? She's an amazing tutor. I understood everything when she explained it and got hundreds on the social studies quiz and science lab thanks to her. There was an awkward moment when she first saw Jeffrey because it was her first time seeing him all bald and puffy, but she covered her shock well. And by the second night, she was playing board games with him every time she took a break while I did practice quizzes or writing assignments. He was happy with the attention, and I noticed something interesting. She was much more patient and honestly excited to play with him than I was. So Annette was the absolute perfect tutor pal, and I should have been kissing the ground beneath her feet and carrying her book bags to school every day, right? But even while I was getting so much from her, I couldn't stop thinking about next week when Renee would be coming over. On Thursday night of that week, Mom and Jeffrey left for a quick 2-day trip to Philly for blood counts and a couple chemotherapy injections. The procedures were pretty routine by then, but the results weren't. Jeffrey's counts were really low, so low that doctors gave him 2 transfusions, one of whole blood and one of platelets. This turned into a 2-day trip into a 4-day trip. I heard my dad on the phone saying the hospital bills were running about $2,000 a night. So I knew this financial picture wasn't getting any rosier. Also, my mom told me that Jeffrey would probably be even more vulnerable to germs in the foreseeable future. So I should be very extra careful to avoid being near anyone who is sneezing or coughing. And I wash my hands when I walk into the house every day. I asked if I should stay home and live in a plastic bubble with Jeffrey, and she warned me that I might, in fact, have to stay out of school for a while if something like the chickenpox started going around. So I was freaking out. On one hand, my head was a mess of tumbling worry, rising poverty, falling blood counts, alarming potential quarantine. On the other hand, Renee was coming. Renee was coming to my house.